Welcome back to my channel. In the heart of the Arizona desert, where the wind sang through the canyons and the sun painted the land in burning gold, a lone cowboy named Eli Morgan rode slowly through the wasteland. His horse, Dusty, trotted carefully across the cracked earth, each step echoing the silence that stretched for miles. Eli wasn't looking for trouble. He never was. He'd fought enough battles, lost enough friends, and buried enough dreams. All he wanted now was peace. Maybe a quiet ranch, a bit of land, and a sky wide enough to hold the ghosts that still rode behind him. But fate, as always, had other plans. As the sun began to sink, Eli noticed something unusual. A faint movement near a cluster of boulders by the dry riverbed. At first he thought it was an animal. Maybe a coyote or a buzzard picking through the bones of something unfortunate. But then he heard it. A soft whimper. Weak, desperate, almost human. Eli's heart tightened. He dismounted, walked closer, hand resting on the revolver at his belt. When he reached the boulders, what he saw stopped him cold. A child, no more than 9 years old, lay curled in the dust. His skin was sunburnt and cracked, lips pale, eyes half open. His ribs showed through the torn leather of what once had been a small tribal vest. Eli knelt down. "Hey, kid," he said softly, tipping his hat back. "You alive there?" The boy didn't answer, just blinked slowly, too weak to move. Eli noticed the painted beads around his neck. Apache. His heart sank. The child had likely lost his people. The raids, the hunger, the war between settlers and tribes had torn families apart like paper in a storm. Eli took out his canteen and carefully tilted it against the boy's lips. The child flinched at first, but then drank greedily, water dripping down his chin. "Easy now," Eli whispered. "Don't drown yourself. There's plenty." He pulled a small piece of jerky from his saddlebag and broke it into pieces. The boy took it with trembling hands, eating like he hadn't seen food in days. "Name's Eli," the cowboy said gently. "You got a name, son?" The boy looked up, eyes dark and hollow. "Tawa," he whispered hoarsely. My mother." His voice broke. Eli felt a lump in his throat. "Easy," he said again. "You don't gotta talk yet. We'll get you somewhere safe." Night fell fast in the desert, and Eli built a small fire, wrapping the boy in his coat. The flames danced, throwing long shadows over the rocks. He looked at the boy, so small, so fragile, and thought of his own son, lost years ago to fever. Maybe that's why he couldn't walk away. He stayed awake most of the night, listening to the coyotes howl under the starlight, one hand on his rifle, the other feeding the fire to keep it burning. The next morning, Eli decided to ride toward the nearest town, Dry Creek, nearly 30 miles west. He lifted the boy carefully onto Dusty's back and started the long journey. But the desert had its own challenges. Heat waves shimmered on the horizon, and the canteen was nearly empty by noon. Eli gave the boy the last sip, ignoring his own thirst. "We'll make it, Tawa," he said with a tired smile. "Just hold on." The boy looked at him, eyes filled with quiet trust, the kind of look that made a man feel responsible for more than his own life. As the sun dipped again, they stumbled upon an abandoned shack near the edge of an old mining trail. Eli decided to rest. He built a small fire and checked the horizon. No riders, no smoke, no danger. But inside him something was changing. The cowboy who'd once sworn he'd never care again was beginning to feel a spark he thought he'd buried long ago. Tawa began to regain strength over the next 2 days. He could speak more, move more, and even smiled once or twice when Dusty nuzzled his hand. He told Eli about the raid, how soldiers came at dawn, how his people ran into the desert to escape, how he'd been separated from his mother. Eli listened quietly, jaw tight, heart heavy. He knew those raids too well. He'd been part of them once when he was younger and believed orders meant honor. He'd seen the burning camps, the crying children. Now, sitting across from one of them, the shame burned deeper than the desert sun. On the 3rd day, Tawa grew restless. "We must find my mother," he said. "She will look for me." Eli sighed. "I know, kid, but the desert's big, and I ain't sure where she might be." The boy looked straight into his eyes. "The spirits will guide us," he said simply. Something in that voice, the faith, the quiet strength, made Eli nod. "All right then," he said. "We'll try." So they rode north, following the traces of footprints and broken arrows half buried in sand. For 2 days they found nothing. Then, on the morning of the 3rd, they saw smoke in the distance, thin, gray, rising from the edge of a canyon. Eli's gut twisted. Could be soldiers, could be tribesmen, could be both. They approached carefully. When they reached the ridge, they saw them. A small band of Apache survivors, huddled around a fire. The women were weak, the men fewer than a dozen, wounded and tired. Among them, A woman stood, scanning the horizon with desperate eyes. "Mother," Tawa whispered. And before Eli could stop him, the boy slid off the horse and ran down the hill. The woman turned, disbelief on her face, then cried out, a sound that tore through the canyon. She ran toward him, dropped to her knees, and pulled him into her arms. Eli stood back, watching. His chest tightened as the reunion unfolded before him. For a moment, he felt something warm inside. The peace he'd been chasing all his life. The Apache men watched Eli warily, hands near their knives. He raised both palms. "Easy," he said. "I ain't your enemy." The chief stepped forward, tall, scarred, eyes sharp as flint. "Why did you bring the boy?" he asked in rough English. "Because no child should die alone," Eli said simply. The man studied him for a long time, then nodded slowly. "You did a good thing, cowboy." Eli stayed for a day, helping them fix their camp, sharing what little supplies he had left. The woman, Tawa's mother, thanked him through tears. Before leaving, she placed a beaded bracelet on his wrist. "You carry the spirit of kindness," she said. "May the land protect you." Eli smiled faintly. "Take care of him," he said, nodding at Tawa. The boy ran to him one last time and hugged his leg tightly. "You're my friend, Eli," he said. "You saved me." Eli knelt down, placed a rough hand on his shoulder. "You saved me too, kid," he said softly. As Eli rode away that evening, the desert seemed different. Not so empty, not so cruel. He looked up at the fiery sky and felt something he hadn't in years. Hope. He realized that kindness didn't need reward, that saving one life could heal a part of your own soul. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough redemption for one man. The wind carried his hat brim up slightly, and Eli smiled into the sunset. "Sometimes," he muttered, "a man's worth ain't in what he takes, but what he gives back." So if you believe that one small act of kindness can change the world, then friend, you're already part of something bigger. Stories like these remind us that hope still rides across this world, even through dust and despair. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because more stories of courage, compassion, and redemption are waiting just beyond the horizon. And I promise, the next ride's gonna be worth it.